media campaign to bring awareness to C291. The only reason we got 67 votes is because of Rachel and her family. If you folks do make it to Christie Pitts, please do visit the Kids Right to Know booth. Consider putting some pocket change in there. Takes change to make change. And speaking of making change, I am calling up our next speaker, the Vice President of the Green Party of Ontario, Bonnie North. And one of my favorite... Again. Okay, here you go, Bonnie.
Thank you. Hello everyone, thank you so much for inviting me here. I actually live in Barrie. I took the train in today, and I had a speech already written because I was invited months ago to speak, but as of what happened at the House of Commons and in Parliament this past week, I had to rewrite my speech. And let me just tell you a story. I have been involved as a volunteer organizer for the March Against Monsanto in Barrie for the last few years. And the city of Barrie has a number of permitting and insurance provisions that they require of people that cost a lot of money. So we were, being grassroots, did not have enough money to cover it, so the Green Party of Ontario and the Green Party of Canada sponsored us to do our marches. Now, but here's the thing, we got a little bit of pushback, and I understand why we had pushback. People said that the March Against Monsanto should be non-political, and I understand that. I'm going to get to that in a moment. Let me tell you another story. I want to tell you about Colombia. In 2010, the Colombian government passed an agricultural law called 970. 970 required their farmers to stop saving seed, to stop trading seed, and to stop using their heritage and heirloom seeds. Well, why would they do that? Because they were in consultation with the United States for a free trade law that was passed in 2012. So in 2012, part of that free trade law required the farmers to then buy seeds from Monsanto and other transgenic agro-businesses. So they were planning this in 2010. In 2012, the law is passed, and the farmers decided they weren't going to go along with this law. And in fact, most of them didn't even know that they had to start buying transgenic seeds, and oh, by the way, pay an annual fee for the privilege of doing that. So they didn't do it. In 2013, government forces stormed into poor peasant villages, burned thousands and thousands and thousands of crops. These peasant farmers had saved these seeds and planted themselves. So in 2013, the entire country went on a general strike. 200,000 farmers, truckers, and miners shut the country down. The entire country It's okay, no, it's right.
Testing.
Thank you. So by September 2013, because of the actions of the people of Colombia, the government rescinded Agricultural 970. Thank you. But it was not without cost. Government soldiers attacked protesters in Bogota that year. 650 people were arrested, 12 people died, 450 plus people were injured, and 4 million people were displaced because of the actions of the government. And this law, this free trade agreement, was underwritten by Monsanto. So, why should we be concerned with grassroots movements and political movements? Because in my opinion, ultimately, whatever you want to do, whatever change you want to make, ultimately you have to get the politicians to put things into law to bring those positive changes into effect. I wear many hats in the Green Party. I'm the Deputy Leader of the Green Party of Ontario. I'm the CEO of my local Green Party riding association. And why the Green Party? Well, both the provincial and the federal Green Party have made it policy to label GMO foods. That is their policy. There might be other politicians in other parties who personally believe that it should be done, but as far as I know, the Green Party is the only party that has put it into their policy to do that. So that said, let's talk about one last thing before I go. Let's talk about our voting system. Politics again. Our voting system is unfair. If anybody is aware of how it works, I'll just give you an example. In 2011 and again in 2015, we had elections that, because of the system that we use, we have a multi-party system that really is only, the voting system itself is only designed to elect one out of two parties, but that's not how our system works in Canada. Anyway, because of that, parties have become majority governments, so 100% of the power with only 39% of the vote. So that doesn't make any sense. So there are politicians right now in the House of Commons, like Elizabeth May, like Nathan Cullen, who are working across party lines to change this. And so, FYI, when we're talking to our politicians on the 31st of May, as far as I know, there's going to be a vote in the House of Commons to accept the report by the Electoral Reform Commission that spent endless hours last year traveling across the country, interviewing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of expert witnesses, talking to Canadians just like me, just like you, just like all of you. And the majority of the opinion that they got was that we need electoral reform in Canada. So I'm asking you, when you are contacting your politicians, please ask them to vote to accept the House of Commons Electoral Reform Committee's report at the end of May. Because we need a system that reflects the will of Canadians, and we need to be able to vote politicians into the House of Commons who will be held accountable to us. Right now, they're not accountable to us. They get into power and they do what they want. We need a proportionate system. So, if anybody wants to sign a postcard to send to either Pierre Trudeau or to Nathan Cullen, who will pass that along, let me know.
Justin.
So, pardon me. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, it's funny. You know, that's an
Love to send a postcard to Pierre Trudeau.
Here, yes, the postcards from beyond. So here is the irony, and I'm sorry I said that, because Pierre Trudeau, Justin's father, wanted electoral reform.
Right.
And here we are, how many decades later, and we're still talking about it. So, I didn't mean to co-opt. This is the march against Monsanto, but we need to change our laws to reflect what Canadians want. We want to label our food. That's all we're asking. That's all we're asking. So, thank you so much for your patience, and over to Jody.
Thank you, Bonnie, for your good work. So some of you had the gasp moment when you heard about that law where farmers are no longer allowed to save bin seed and plant it, right? Well, we have that law right here in Canada thanks to the Harper government. That law happened here too. This law is across the globe. It is Monsanto and their brothers in arms agenda to control the seed supply. Now that sounds pretty wacky. And there's a lot of conspiracy theory out there, but I have been on this particular agenda for over 20 years. And come see me in the park if you want to have a little bit more of a detailed conversation about what's the what on this particular seed bill in particular. But know that I had a farmer contact me last summer because he had been contacted by the lawyers of the seed company he used to sell seeds for, and told that under the new law, his practice he'd been doing for 15 years was now illegal, and they invited him to pay a whole bunch of royalties on product he'd grown out 2 seasons after he had last purchased from this seed company. He ended up dropping it because they dropped it, but you can rest assured if that was one farmer who got that letter, hundreds of farmers got that letter last year, and they did not want to tell their neighbors because their reputation is on the line and they're being told they're criminals for doing something that they have always done, and that is why we are here to march today.